You know who I can do without? I can do without the people in the video store.
Which ones?
All of them.
This is Massive Late Fee with Mike and Mark.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Massive Late Fee. I am Mark. With me as always is my co-host Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Not bad. How about you?
I'm doing good. We had a good week. I want to, right off the bat, before I forget, I want to thank our Patreons. We have a Patreon now. I will link it in the description below. If you want to, throw us $1 or I think we right now we have a few different tiers, but I think I'm going to consolidate some of them. But right now we have $1, $3, $5, and if you want to actually be on the show, $50. I don't expect anybody to actually do that one, but the option is there if you want it. But I want to thank our new Patreons, Miranda and Leah. So I'll try to give you a shout out again at the end of the show, which is where I'll probably do we'll probably do most of our shout outs. But before I forget, I want to make sure to shout out Miranda and Leah. So thank you very much, guys, girls. The women love us, Mike.
What can we say?
Now, guys, you also can become patrons if you want. So I'm gonna kind of slam into the news here. I don't really have a transition for this, but we've been talking a lot about Kevin Smith films, and we have a piece of Kevin Smith news. The Jay and Silent Bob reboot it's been delayed, but it's actually happening, and the script is apparently finished, and they are going to begin filming soon. When they first started talking about doing another Jay and Silent Bob movie, I was sort of, it's one of my favorite movies of his, but I was kind of hesitant. But then I heard the idea that they're trying to prevent a reboot of their movie that was made in the original Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and it's sort of a play on reboots and stuff like that, and I think that could be very funny.
I just hope it's a gritty reboot, the best type of reboot there is.
Could you imagine just like a bunch of like trained killers trying to stop them?
Yeah, I know we just watched Clerks and we did a commentary on it.
Yeah, that's right. If we have our commentary up on Bandcamp, I will also link that below. That's also available on our Patreon. Obviously, if you want to check that out, that's on Bandcamp. That is free, although you can pay as much as you want. If you want to chuck in $1 there for us, that would be much appreciated. But yeah, I will link that all below. But I think we had a pretty good commentary on that. What do you think, Mike?
Well, yeah, and since I specifically requested that we make this short because I have to get up early tomorrow, let me derail this real quick.
Okay.
If you could cast Clerks from any actor you could do, what would you do with the roles? Who do you think would be good choices for them? Would you go with the originals or would you go with someone else?
Well, I mean, if I like the originals a lot, I would probably keep it as it is. But if we're recasting, geez, that's a very interesting question. I think
Don't mean to put you on the spot there.
I'm just, I'm thinking with Jeff Anderson and everything. I don't really think you could do that. I mean, the only other one would probably be Jason Lee.
Yeah, I really don't think you could replace the actors. I mean,
yeah, that's really tough. I mean, I could think of some people that sort of look like the original actors, but I don't. There's that movie had such a charm to it. I don't think you could really ever recreate that.
the only one I could think of, and this was be a pure Hollywood decision, and he's probably too old anyways, is you probably put Ryan Reynolds as Randall.
I thought about that too. When you said that, because they do look a little bit alike, and he's kind of got that same sort of
Weisenheimer
attitude.
vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I don't know. Like I still don't. And you know, empirically speaking, Ryan Reynolds is probably a better actor than Jeff Anderson, and I could find better actors than the people that did it and cast the movie that way. But I don't think it would work. I don't think it would work as well as it did.
Yeah, I really don't. Part of its charm is you don't know the actors.
Yeah, and their performances, have a charm to them. It's all everything's very simple. It's almost guerrilla style filming, and it all really works together. But yes, so that is going to be filming, and the other news that we have today, just two quick pieces of news so we can get through this, which is what our listeners say. Let's get through this. I
believe that the Catholic Church often subscribes listening to this podcast as penance. That in the other thing.
Oh God, the Catholics. The Breaking Bad is apparently going to also have a movie. Vince Gilligan is writing it. Or I think it might be written already. But he is the creative force behind it. Obviously, he's the creative force behind Breaking Bad. No solid details yet. There's a lot of speculation that it's going to be a continuation of Jesse Pinkman's story, and then I read the other day that Brian
Cranston.
Yeah, Brian Cranston has said that he hasn't seen anything yet script wise, but he's keen to be in it as well. I guess the show was the timeline of the show was so tightly compacted that I don't know if they could really do a side quest. I mean, I guess
that was my thought that especially if Brian Cranston's going to be, it'd have to. I mean, there is oddly enough some speculation over this, but I'm almost 100% sure that Walter White's dead at the end of the series.
Yeah, and I've heard people that say, well, it's not definitive that he died and everything. I can't see Vince Gilligan doing that. I think he's way too smart and way too good of a creator to kind of go back on that and be like, no, he's alive and everything and got arrested or whatever would have happened to him. At that point.
At the same time though, these characters are so not lovable, but they're so well liked. I mean, I think most people, probably even myself, will give him a pass. It's like, oh, Walter White's still alive, and here he is on trial, or here he is escaping from prison, or here he is starting a mariachi band. I mean, I pretty much watch anything with those characters written by Vince Gilligan.
Yeah, he could do it. I mean, if there was anyone that could do it, it would be him. I agree with that. But I think either Walter White won't show up in it, and it will just be a continuation of Jesse's story, which is kind of open-ended. And that seems to be what Vince Gilligan is sort of hinting at, because he really didn't, when he talked about it, he didn't really mention Walter White. He kind of talked about different characters whose arcs or stories were left somewhat open-ended, which Jesse's, really kind of was. And,
for sure.
I'm joking. And I think that's
movie meal.
I think that's probably what it's going to do. It's probably going to focus on Jesse, although I could see Walter White appearing in flashback kind of things.
Yeah, that can make sense.
Or maybe even as a specter haunting him. I mean, not like a real specter haunting him, but just like he's losing grip on reality and kind of sees, Walter White.
Yeah, he's definitely would almost certainly have some kind of PTSD from being locked in a hole in the ground for months.
Right.
See, don't get me wrong. I think Aaron Paul's a great actor, and his portrayal as Jesse was amazing, but I never found that character to be super interesting.
There were certain aspects. Walter White was always clearly the more interesting of the two of them. There were, and I looked at Jesse a lot as comic relief.
For sure, at certain points, definitely.
And that was good. That was a good a good part for his character to play. Although he was a little less, he became less that as Saul came in, and Saul really kind of took over the Bob Odenkirk took over the comic relief areas of the show. But there were a few different aspects of his character that I thought were somewhat interesting. But yeah, a lot of times it pales in comparison to Walter White's arc, you know.
Yeah, and there's so many great, like obviously Saul Goodman is a great character and obviously good enough to make a series about entirely.
Mm-hmm.
I always liked Gus, but clearly he's not going to be in any sequels
Right.
unless he's still alive somehow.
Oh my god.
But I may have said this before, but I think a hilarious sequel would be with Cuddy and a Huel and Badger and Skinny Pete, and they're just like going around like helping out, like like fake, like they're basically like con men.
I would watch the hell out of that. If Vince Gilligan was involved with that, absolutely.
Yeah, because they're all. Skinny Pete and Badger obviously like con the I can't remember their name. The blacks. The people who helped form Gray Matter.
Oh yeah,
with their laser sights when Walt convinced them that they were like snipers on them.
Gretchen and Elliot.
That's it. Yeah, Gretchen and Elliot Black.
Yeah.
It sounded really racist for a second there.
The blacks.
The blacks.
They con the blacks.
You know what I mean. And then obviously Huel and Cuddy both survived. I don't think any of them were. Well, no, actually Huel is kind of hilariously enough was in witness protection. For all we know, he's still in witness protection.
Yeah, that's true. We never figure out when, and maybe that's another character that they will they'll kind of delve into.
But if they all four of them teamed up, you know what we would call the series? Fallacies.
Yeah, I would absolutely watch that, and I like those characters a lot too. They're interesting. I think you could expand on them for sure.
Oh yeah. For sure. Like Cuddy, seems like he's a professional con man. How that works, I don't know. Huel, you could at least say he's like a bodyguard, but not really because he's clearly good at sleight of hand and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I guess Jesse probably wouldn't want to deal with Huel for sure. He probably has a grudge against.
Yeah, I would imagine that he's not too happy with Huel in his part from what was her name, Andrea, her son.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Brock was the son. I don't remember the mom's name.
Yeah, I think it was Andrea, something like that. But yeah, but that'll be interesting. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep everyone appraised with what's going on with that movie. It's definitely something I will absolutely see when it comes out.
Oh yeah, wherever it's at in the theater, on AMC, Netflix. I don't know. There's not much information about it, but that's definitely right up both of our alleys.
Oh yeah. So, moving right along here, we are going to go into our second edition of Educating Mike. This is where I read Mike the synopsis or story or whatever of a movie, TV show, comic book to just to expand Mike's horizons on entertainment, since he hates everything in entertainment.
Yeah, I really do hate everything. It's not a prank. We're not pranking you. You're a hero. It's not a bit. I just I realize that I hate most things.
But you may remember from last time that we started with the first of 4 Archie versus the Predator comic books, and we're going into part 2 now. If you remember, Mike, from last time, we left off where the Riverdale gang had gotten back home to I think it's Moe's little
The malt shop.
Yeah, the malt shop.
I gotta say, I'm the only thing that would be more exciting to hear than this is if there were more adventures of Max Wright from Alf. That was the best thing ever.
Yeah, for anybody that's interested, go back and listen to our last episode, part 1 of this series. Definitely listen to part 1 of this series because we're going to be, continuing with Kevin Smith's movies. But that Max Wright story is something else.
It's a doozy.
But yeah, so they're back at the malt shop, and Betty is feeling guilty because she has one of Cheryl's dresses. So apparently after they were brutally murdered. I mean, not that the gang knows about it yet, but
They were snooty.
she just raided her luggage for some reason because she has one of her dresses on. So they're in the malt shop and just chilling and everything. And we see right away that Betty's got that knife still, and we see the red vision of the predator, so we know he's around somewhere. Their little geeky friend comes up and says that he's got awful news and that Cheryl and Jason were killed at the resort, and apparently it was some kind of jungle animal. And all like right away, Betty kind of seems to think that it's her fault. I think because she took the knife and she kind of cursed out Cheryl in that little place and everything. And the owner of the malt shop comes up with a welcome home cake, this big chocolate cake with a strawberry on top of it, and he says that oh, I made you guys this special welcome home cake, but maybe now's not the time. But of course, Jughead's into it. He wants he wants that cake. But it's so funny because I just I see this guy. He's portly, a little bald, and everything, and I just kind of think about the backstory that he probably has, where he and his wife couldn't have any kids of their own, and he feels really close to these kids that come in here every day, and he's gone to all this trouble to make them a welcome back cake. Well, next panel, his head gets blown completely off in a shower of blood, absolutely destroyed. You can't even see any of it, just completely headless. Veronica's covered in blood. Everyone is screaming. He falls down charred in the middle of the restaurant. Jughead's still got the cake in his hand.
They're probably eating it.
There's an eyeball on top of the cake, but he's still holding it. Everyone kind of runs towards the back room, and Betty says that she knows that all this is happening is her fault, and she needs Veronica to come with her now. And they're going to go to Greendale. Not Greendale Community College, like from the television show Community, but the neighboring to Riverdale, Greendale.
Nice.
So as they get into the car, she says that she thinks that she did this because she put a hoodoo, a curse on Cheryl, and said some pretty nasty things about Veronica too when she was in that thing. So she's worried that this is her fault, and she wants to go see Sabrina. Maybe this is an allusion to Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I don't know because I don't really know this character. But Betty says that she knows that this Sabrina will know what to do because in the library, all the books on voodoo, Sabrina's name is in them, having checked them out. Which also means that Betty checked them out too. And
I hope they're not on a watch list.
And they're reading the same book, so I'm not sure exactly what she thinks she's going to learn from her. But the police are on their way to help out the other people, and they've slipped out the back. And they've left, and they go to Sabrina's house, which is this old, almost like the house in Psycho is kind of what it looks like, one of those Victorian type mansions. And she answers the door, looking all goth. She's got the black vest on with it's like that Barbie doll goth kind of thing where she's blonde to almost be white hair, very pale green eyes, the white cute dress with the tiny little black vest. And so they come in, and Betty kind of tells her what's going on. And she says that she took this ceremonial knife. So Sabrina says, "Okay, let me look in my books and everything." She's all creepy and shit, and she puts on a fucking goat's head, like a Satanist. and starts flipping through her books. She holds up the knife. She's starts giving these incantations, and the predator bursts through the window, stabs her right through the guts, and the knife falls. The knife falls on the floor and shatters completely.
What?
And it just shatters the ceremonial knife. The predator rips Sabrina's head out with her spine and everything. Blood comically, and it's so funny how like it's still manages to be funny. Blood just spurts directly on Veronica, missing Betty. Like every time Veronica just gets drenched in blood, and Betty stays completely clean. Sabrina's cat. Yeah, this has got to be like a Sabrina the Teenage Witch thing because she's got a cat too. Her cat jumps at the predator and he vaporizes it. You can see the skeleton of the cat as he nukes it.
Does the cat say something sassy before it's vaporized?
No, it just says "rawr."
Oh, real quick, I guess in that one on Netflix, Sabrina, there is a character named Harvey.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know if that's from like the comics or what, but I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh, yeah, it must be. But so the predator's completely gone at this point. Apparently, he just it's pretty confusing. He destroys the cat and then just pieces out. So they're sitting there. And Betty has gotten the predator on a picture on her camera. So now Veronica's goes through Sabrina's clothes.
What the fuck?
They keep raiding dead people's clothes. But since she's covered in blood, she wants to put something else on, so she does. And Betty
does she make any sassy comments on all black?
She does say, she goes in and she goes, I'm borrowing clean clothes from Sabrina's closet. It's not like she can use them anymore, especially the turtlenecks. And then she goes, weird.
Nice.
Oh,
classic Veronica.
Oh, cute. And it's like a little white dress. So Veronica starts to change, and they're oddly calm for the fact that the predator had just been there and could come back at any minute. So
if he was going to kill him, he would have killed him then, right?
You would think so, yeah. But she starts to change. She's got all her clothes off. Betty's looking around the room. She picks up an axe.
Go on.
And the predator starts coming in because she's got that axe. And then she puts it down, and so the predator leaves, kind of, showing how he won't attack anyone if they're not armed.
Yeah, if it's a teenage girl with an axe, that's a challenge to him. But if there's no axe, no deal.
Yeah, it's funny that at the end of the second Predator movie, he kind of he throws Glover, Danny Glover's character, throws him that like flintlock pistol. And it's just like it's like a trophy to him. He just like obviously clearly killed someone that was thoroughly unprepared to fight a predator. But anyway, so they leave the mansion, and from behind them you can see that the ceremonial knife is magically coming back together and is whole again. So they come back and find Archie and the gang, and they're obviously happy to see them. Archie's got some friends with him. Who's the Moose, right? The big dumb guy?
Yeah, Moose is the big tough guy.
So Moose has come with his father's gun, which is a squirt gun.
What?
It's one of those big super soakers.
What the? Why would that be his father's gun? Wouldn't that be his gun?
I don't know. He said, I brought my
I
brought my daddy's gun. And it's a squirt gun. So their other friend says, I brought my daddy and I brought my uncle's guns. And his dad happens to be in the military. So he brought his dad, who happens to be like a special ops guy. Then there is just a huge, long amount of exposition on the next thing from the military guy, because Betty shows him the picture of what they're dealing with. And he's like, oh, kids, for the safety of this great country of ours, occasionally the U.S. military keeps things secret from the general citizenry. One of those things is the existence of predators. And they, they're all like, oh, predators. Oh, what else does the government keep from us? All this stuff. And so he goes through the whole mythology of the predators, how they come here. They take... they hunt human beings, they take trophies, all that stuff, and he kind of gives them the rules. If you're not armed and everything, you'll be fine. And they want to use Veronica as bait because they think that it wants Veronica for some reason. But Veronica, the military dad says that he doesn't, he's not going to use a woman. So somebody's got to dress up as Veronica, and
Okay.
yeah, lo and behold, it's Jughead. Veronica promises him to buy him lunch every day for a year, and that is enough to get him in a dress.
Quite costly, though.
So they, all the guys, his military buddies, and Moose and the rest of them, they take off to find the predator. And Archie and the rest of the gang kind of stay back. So Jughead's out there, and he's like, hey, what are you waiting for? Kill me, blah, blah, blah. And the Predator kind of shoots like a warning shot, knocks Jughead over, and then the military guys are waiting behind this car, and the Predator just flips this car over and crushes a bunch of them. Like, they're just cut in half. He's just like,
I think this is the best comic series I've ever heard of in my entire life.
He's just going through them. The one guy's got like half a body, and he's crawling towards me. He's like, hey, ugly, your mama said it was your birthday, so I got you a present. And the Predator lifts him up, and the guy smiles, and he's got a live grenade in his hand and lets it blow up. And so the Predator runs by with just fire coming off of him. And Jughead's, in there. He gets up. He's got Veronica's purse. He feels inside. He's like, hey, what's this? And it's the knife. And behind him, we see the Predator.
What the fuck?
And that is where it ends until next week and next issue. And the next issue is the one you were talking about, where they're at the malt shop with the 3 straws in the milkshake.
That is the best picture I've ever seen in my whole life.
Oh yeah, it is hilarious. But that will be the penultimate issue next week, issue number 3, and then the week after that we'll do issue 4, and then we will have done the entire oeuvre. That's the word I mispronounced last week. of the Archie versus the Predator.
I hear in the 4th issue, Max Wright is interrupted having an interracial threesome while smoking crack. But then the Predator thinks the crack pipe is a weapon, so...
Oh, God. Oh, so, last week, we talked about Clerks and Mallrats. We got through the first 2 films of Kevin Smith's career. So today, I guess we'll pick up with Yoga Hosers. No, today we'll pick up with Chasing Amy, the 3rd film after going out to Universal and getting the kind of bigger budget Hollywood movie made in the studio system. Kevin Smith was obviously turned off by that. Came back to his good friend Harvey Weinstein. No, I have no way of, or I have no reason to think
he's a good man.
They were
a good man.
Friends. But he comes back to Miramax and makes his 3rd movie, Chasing Amy. There, obviously, a lot of the regulars come back. Ben Affleck's back. Jason Lee is back from having been in Mallrats. Joy Lauren Adams is back, and kind of maybe his most personal story, I would say. I know this is based partially on real things that happened in his life, and it's definitely, I would say it's the least. There's funny things in it, but I would say it's the least comedy of his movies, the most drama of his movies. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I haven't seen all of Jersey Girl. I don't know how dramatic that is. It seems very.
Yeah, that one's pretty.
But I wouldn't
heavy.
really consider that to be a like a part of the Askew verse. That's really what I consider to be the core of the Kevin Smith films.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. This one, outside of Yoga Hosers, is the most dramatic movie that I've seen.
but the story of Alyssa Jones, who is actually bisexual, but at first we think she's a lesbian because she's dating a woman. But Holden McNeil, that's his last name, right?
I think so. And this, again, is another literary reference. Holden, probably a reference to Holden Caulfield from Catcher in the Rye.
Right. He, he kind of falls in love with her, gets sort of obsessed with her. They become friends and everything. And they end up starting a relationship because, like I said, she's bisexual.
Because if you're handsome enough, you could turn a lesbian straight.
That's right. If you have that high Ben Affleck 90s hair, I mean, that is maybe some of the highest hair I've ever seen on a human being.
I think they initially had Kid from Kid and Play going to play that role, but he backed out, so they had to go with Ben Affleck.
It is a hell of a bouffant. But, he, they fall in love and everything, and, I'm not going to spoil the movie for anyone that hasn't seen it, but things might not go as planned.
See, I think we should spoil the movie because it's like 20 years old.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he ends up, you see how easy that was to talk me into just spoiling the movie?
You're like Dante.
But,
Maybe we should do a mass killing. What do you think, Mark?
Well, I mean, that could work. There are a lot of people on the planet.
Too much, some would say.
So he asks about her past. He finds out that she's a lot more experienced than him, which, the implication is that his character is not super experienced. So, she had sex with girls and guys. I mean, duh. Way more experienced than you sexually, which bothers him to the point of, he finds out she had a three-way. He doesn't like it, and he thinks the way to fix all this is to have a three-way with her and his best friend, who he thinks has a crush on him, who's also a guy. And, obviously she ends up leaving because he doesn't get it. This is the one movie from Kevin Smith, and I like this movie a lot. But
it's very good if you haven't seen it. Unfortunately, Mark wouldn't spoil the ending for everyone, but it's definitely worth seeing.
But this is one of those movies where the entire time I'm like yelling at the protagonist, like I'm yelling at Ben Affleck's character, telling him what an idiot he is because he just doesn't. It's one of those movies where the guy just doesn't get it. He just doesn't understand. And everyone's telling him, what the deal is, and he still doesn't get it. It's kind of frustrating.
Which is kind of funny because just having seen Clerks, minutes ago, that's a reoccurring theme. Dante is essentially the same character.
Yeah.
But this is like Dante is being told over, hey, you fucking idiot, you got to do this. But he's like, oh, I don't know what to do. And then just like Dante, Holden is like, well, I don't know. Maybe I don't feel comfortable. But I mean, the whole time Alyssa just really wants to be with him in spite of, all his, protests that, oh, you're more experienced or you like women. The whole time he's just like, obsessed with trying to be equal as far as sexual experience goes.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think some guys are like that. I'm really not. I don't think you are either. But I think there are some guys that sort of have that attitude. But she's trying to tell him that they're in love. It's about them, and it's about them right now. It doesn't. Whatever came before doesn't matter. And that's true of of relationships, but he's not there. They do sort of leave it open at the very end that maybe they might eventually get back together. Although, spoiler alert, when we go to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, it's pretty clear that never happened.
Yeah, definitely. At the beginning and the end of that movie, they're very clear that they don't continue their relationship.
Yeah.
Because at one point during the video from the clit, Ben Affleck's character says, "Oh, it's time to take this, and I miss dating a lesbian."
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because, again, that shows he doesn't get it because she's not really a lesbian. I mean, she's at least bisexual.
Right.
At the very end, we see Alyssa herself dating, what's her name from Mallrats? Trish the Dish.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they're walking out together, as a couple.
Yep. Trish the Dish. That's awesome.
I mean, I think this is definitely his best movie, though it's not my personal favorite, which is kind of a weird thing to say. But I mean, I can recognize its quality, and the writing is top notch in this whole movie. And of course, Silent Bob, one of the best moments is when he gives his standard Chasing Amy story, which is later referenced by Jay as something he tells all the time.
Yeah, and it's my favorite. It's my favorite speech by Silent Bob for sure in any of these movies, and I would agree with you. I know exactly what you're talking about. This isn't my favorite Kevin Smith movie, but objectively, it probably is the best written and the best directed of his films. It's almost
good. It's almost like he's basically taking the story from Clerks and like crystallizing it into like the perfect possible way to do Clerks, because it's again the subject is relationships. It's a character who is basically submitting himself to all this hellish existence. Mm-hmm. And he basically takes Clerks and just like, it's not the same story by any stretch of the imagination, but it's the same sort of psychological dilemma that's like just exaggerated, and it's like a perfect. It's almost if he remade Clerks and did it perfectly.
Yeah, this movie hits a lot of the same themes as Clerks does. The themes of relationships, the themes of, holding yourself back versus moving forward, the themes of, what kind of things we choose for ourselves. In Clerks, he can't let go of the past because he wants to be with the idea of this perfect girl in Caitlin, and he can't realize the perfection of Veronica, the girl that treats him nice and is kind to him and puts up with his shit and everything in the present. And in Chasing Amy, Holden can't let go of Alyssa's past and the person
he's basically jealous of the same girl he's dating in Chasing Amy.
Yeah, and he can't see what she is now. He can't see her for what she is now. He can only see her as a collection of the experiences and things that she's done, and that's his big flaw in this film.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's almost as if you had filmed the movie from Alyssa's perspective. Holden wouldn't be the hero by any stretch of the imagination. He's like this kind of like beta type male who can't quite possibly, allow himself to let himself accept who the person he's dating is.
Yep, absolutely. I agree.
And of course, as usual, Jason Lee basically steals the movie. He's amazing in this. He's Banksy, I believe, is the character in this one.
Yeah.
Which I don't know what that's a reference to, if anything.
Maybe.
Do you know by chance?
No. Banky.
Banky, that's right, not Banksy. I'm thinking of the street artist guy.
I can't remember his last name either, but I don't know. Like Brody Bruce and Banky. I don't know. I guess he likes B names with Jason Lee.
Yeah, and I kind of would disagree with you. But I think there's a lot of really good jokes in this one. Like, for example, the opening scene where I cannot remember his name. Their friend who's like the underground artist who makes a honky hating coon. Is that what the comic is?
Yeah, Hooper is his character's name.
Yeah. Is that his name?
Hooper. Yeah, I don't know the actor's name.
The actor is really good. He was actually in the movie Hackers. I don't know if you've seen that. He plays Lord Nikon.
Yep.
Yeah, he's pretty. He has some pretty. That whole scene is pretty hilarious, and the whole part where Banky and Holden are like in line signing autographs, and like the guy calls Banky out for being a tracer.
Yeah,
That whole part is great. And then there's just an amazing scene which is basically set up like in Mallrats, where they have Hooper, and they have Banky, and they're not Hooper. It wasn't Hooper. It was Alyssa. They were discussing their scars, like in Jaws.
Yeah, Hooper was there, but he's not. He's not part of the
He's not
conversation.
comparing. Yeah, it's all not verbatim, but it's clearly a reference to Jaws, which is another Kevin Smith reference to Jaws, where they're comparing their scars, their sex scars instead of obviously shark or fish scars.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I think if I'm not mistaken, Joey Lauren Adams had dated Kevin Smith for a while.
Yes, that's correct.
And isn't the story about their relationship, which is really kind of fucked up? I mean, it's almost like he's like putting the person who he had dated in the movie. He has to interact with her daily, and he's basically having her be how she was in Holden. Which Ben Affleck, I mean, if you want to say that you look like Ben Affleck for Kevin Smith, more power to you, I guess. I mean, he's basically relived. I mean, it's an amazing movie. I would see it. It deserves any critical acclaim it gets. It's at the time it was probably pretty. Pardon me. It's probably pretty, innovative for like engaging with like the LGBT community.
Q?
Yeah, I think there's a Q in there. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be offensive. I just honestly don't know what the acronym is.
I saw. I'm also not trying to be offensive. I'll just put that out there. And I can't remember what the letter was, but I was at a college campus probably about a year ago, and I saw a sign that said LGBTQ. And then I think it was R or something like that. And I was with, a group of younger people who should be, sort of hip to these things. And none of us could figure out what the hell it stood for. I'm like, what does that last letter mean?
Was it an A?
Might have been.
If it's an A, I think it means asexual. But I'm not. Again, we're probably too old to know what the latest slang or acronym is.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, 1996, 99. No, not 96. It had to be 99, I would guess.
What, this movie?
Yeah.
97.
Oh, really? That was pretty fast after Mallrats, then, because it wasn't Mallrats 96.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he was able to make another movie, because it seems like the whole experience of making Mallrats is quite traumatic for Kevin Smith.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's talked about it a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, good for him. I mean, what's weird is because Clerks seems like it's like obviously like there's a personal element to it. Mallrats just seems like a madcap comedy. There's very little like dramatic parts to it. I mean, yeah, there's a love story framing the whole thing, but Mallrats is just played for laughs the whole movie, as far as I can tell.
For sure. Yeah, Mallrats is probably, well, I don't know, because Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back does exist, but it's Mallrats is maybe the most just like broadly comedic movie he's ever made. Yeah,
you couldn't say it wouldn't be. It could be done by anyone, because it's clearly that's like Mallrats is like the perfect. Clerks is in the View Askew.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say Mallrats really just breaks that open. Everything. There's so many inside jokes and references. I mean, honestly, if you watch Mallrats and you don't, and that's like one of the first Kevin Smith movies you see, you need to listen to the audio commentary, because there's so many inside jokes and references going on. You will not catch.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
And I'm surprised Joey Lauren Adams didn't go on to bigger movies after Chasing Amy. She's really good in that.
She is, and she's good in Dazed and Confused. She's good in pretty much everything that I've seen her in. She's a very good actress.
She's a good actress. She's attractive. I don't know why she didn't do bigger things, but I mean, as far as I know, she didn't do much after Mallrats.
Not that I'm aware of.
The first thing I ever saw her in was Married with Children. Did you ever see that episode?
I don't know if I've seen that episode. No.
It was a perfect 90s episode, because Bud Bundy, his cousin, played by the guy who I cannot remember his name. He played Larry Kubiak in Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Oh yeah, I loved that show.
Yeah. So he's like this big, like huge, ripped guy. He was going to get married to this woman who was Joey Lauren Adams.
Oh, okay.
And then when she came over, Bud actually she seduced Bud for some reason, because I don't know why Bud Bundy was so attracted to her.
Mm.
And then Bud lost his virginity to her, and it was like the whole episode was hilarious. That's the first time I ever saw her, and ever since I saw that, I'm like, ooh, Joey Lauren Adams. Okay, I'll have to follow her.
I guess the last thing that she was in, yeah, she wow, she has not done much. Well, I mean, she's done a lot of movies, but a lot of them, like she was in a movie called Animal in 2014, which, looks like it's from Chiller Films. So it was on the Chiller
Oh,
network.
oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and then she was in a movie called Sequoia in 2014, which looks like it's about a killer sequoia.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's just weird. Really, I mean, Kevin Smith has like a knack for finding like great actors and actresses. I mean, some of them don't seem to go on too much beyond his movies. I don't know why. I mean, obviously he's a great writer. Maybe he just like perfectly tailors the scripts to them. But I would have loved to see more movies with Joey Lauren Adams.
Dwight Ewell, that's who played Hooper.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he was in Hackers. He was in this. He's been in more things too, but he's also a really good actor. I mean, he's fucking hilarious in Chasing Amy. He's pretty much in every very very funny scene.
Oh yeah.
Like speaking of Archie, the whole that's my favorite scene when he was talking to Banky about the Archie comics.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great scene too. And what I mean by like the movies like more serious or less funny, I mean like
It's not like slapping your knees, like laugh out loud kind of things. But there's stuff that just sticks with you.
I mean like all the way through. Like the part about the Darth Vader thing at the beginning with Hooper is hilarious.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And the Archie comic part is hilarious and stuff. The beginning, the first like 20 minutes or so of the movie is very funny, and then it gets pretty serious. But I guess it just it's, and I'm not saying it's not a funny movie. It definitely is. But I think it's just there's more drama in this one than there is not a lot of his films.
Yeah, I would say if you had to categorize it, it would definitely be like I'd say maybe a romantic drama.
Yeah.
It's not like a romantic comedy by any stretch. I mean, there's funny parts, but they're not like inherent to the plot of the movie.
That's true.
And again, there's another Kevin Smith, almost like a trademark hockey. They're at a hockey game when she just screams at the top of her lungs that she was in a three-way with I can't remember their names.
Rick Darris and somebody else.
Yeah. The guy who calls her finger cuffs. I can't remember his name.
Yeah. Oh God. And yeah, Banky's the one that finds that out. Banky,
Yeah.
because Banky wants that relationship to end because of jealousy.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because it kind of does imply that Banky does have a thing for Holden at the end of the movie because he's super eager to be in the three-way. He's like, yes, and then she's like, no.
Yeah, if you, at the end of,
Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
yeah, it's kind of confirmed that he is.
Yeah, he's in a relationship with Hooper at the end of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that part. But
And again, I mean, it's so hard. I mean, there's so many good performances in the movie. Of course, Jason Lee is great in this. He's good in every Kevin Smith movie I've ever seen him in.
yeah, me too. But I think we can move on from. And is there anything else that you want to say about Chasing Amy?
I mean, just other than a recommendation, I mean, you really don't have to see the other Askew-verse movies to see Chasing Amy.
Yeah,
and you get more value out of it. I mean, if you have seen the other ones, there's references and little jokes and inside jokes that you'll get, and you'll already know like the performances. I mean, it's almost in contrast. Like Ben Affleck's character in Chasing Amy versus his character in Mallrats is completely different.
Yeah.
Jason Lee's kind of playing the same sort of character, but.
Yeah, I agree. This is probably the most accessible of Kevin Smith's movies if you haven't seen or don't want to see any of the other View Askew-universe movies. It's obviously still, highly connected with characters and stuff like that. But yeah, it's probably the most standalone-ish of his movies. But yeah, it's a very well-made film for sure.
Yeah, I would even say. I mean, I'm a little surprised it wasn't like an Oscar nominee for something. I mean, even writing, it's a very good movie.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it was. I mean, I think it was nominated for some awards, but not. Maybe not.
I think it won like a GLAAD award. Maybe I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, that's possible.
Which I'm not even going to guess what that stands for.
But speaking of glad, I know Mike is glad to talk about the next the next movie because this is your favorite of the, as we learned in the audio commentary, as you will learn in the audio commentary if you go and listen to it. Mike's favorite of the Kevin Smith movies, a couple years later, Dogma.
Oh yeah, that's easily my favorite. And it's not saying I don't like the other ones, but I could watch Dogma all day. I love that movie.
You want to tell us what the story of Dogma is?
Yeah, much like Chasing Amy is like a lot of inside references to Kevin Smith's relationship issues. Dogma, I think, is a big kind of allegory of his conflict with his religious beliefs. Mm-hmm. The idea of Dogma is that two angels have found a loophole in basically the entire concept of religion, whereas if they cross through this, is it an arc?
Yeah, the archway of this church, yeah.
Yeah, if they cross through it, then they will basically be forgiven for all their sins, and they can get into heaven, which is something that God, played by Alanis Morissette, says that can't happen. So it'll basically negate all of existence.
Right. Yeah. Alan Rickman kind of explains he's like the basis of the entire universe is that God is infallible, and if someone were to prove God wrong, it would negate all of existence.
Yeah, and so of course the angels are on the process to do this. One of them played by is it Bartleby? That's played by Ben Affleck.
Let's see.
I know Loki is Matt Damon. I don't remember. I think it's Bartleby.
Yeah, Bartleby's Ben Affleck and Loki is Matt Damon. Yep.
Yeah, so Bartleby's the more clever of the two. He knows that this will negate existence, where he's kind of dragging Matt Damon along for the ride, where Matt Damon just thinks he'll get back in that.
Yeah, and Matt Damon plays a dumb guy in this movie, kind of like, but it's a very, first of all, the chemistry, and I know that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon have known each other since they were kids and stuff like that, but the chemistry between the two of them and between the director Kevin Smith as well is clearly evident. They work incredibly well together. They go back and forth really well together. They're just excellent with each other. And Matt Damon plays an idiot in the most subtle, like, nuanced performance I've ever seen of someone playing someone that's just kind of not super bright.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's playing a dumb guy who isn't like obviously dumb. I mean, if you pay attention, you're like, oh, he's not very smart, but he's not like, oh, look at me, I'm tripping over all over the place, or I'm saying the dumbest things ever. He's just, like you said, he's a very subtle performance. So it's a good performance by Matt Damon for sure.
Oh yeah, and there's only one like part where he kind of stands up to Ben Affleck. It's like a emotionally charged scene. But even after that, he kind of just goes along with it. He just sort of goes along the entire movie. And yeah, Bartleby is definitely more of the driving force of the film.
Yeah, and there's I'm going way. I can't remember the opening scene. So they open. Well, first of all, there's even the opening credits are pretty funny because there was a lot of controversy over this movie. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is probably his most. Chasing Amy was controversial, I think, because heaven forbid the gays have a say in the movie making process at the time. Right. And there was controversy for sure over Chasing Amy because there was they had characters who weren't the standard heterosexual characters and that sort of thing. But I mean, that's bad enough, I suppose, for those people who have enough time to criticize movies.
Right.
But then even at the beginning of Chasing Amy, there's like a long disclaimer about how he's not trying to be offensive towards Catholicism or platypuses. I mean, there's quite a bit of it because I mean it's hard to believe in this day and age, but there's a lot of controversy over the fact that what's stated in the Bible isn't matter of fact 100% the truth, and that's basically what this movie's. Actually, I think I remember how it opens. It opens with a homeless guy playing skee ball on the Jersey Shore.
Well, he's kind of standing. He's sort of standing. I just watched this movie last night, so that's why I have a bit of an advantage. But
oh yeah, for sure. I haven't seen it in a long. I mean, I can watch if I watch a movie and I like it a lot. That doesn't necessarily mean I'll ever watch it again.
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched this more than once, and I'd like to watch it again. I just haven't seen it in a long time. So please go ahead.
But yeah, he's standing like at the railing right before the beach, like on the boardwalk, and he's kind of looking out at the boardwalk, and those three kids come up to him and kind of bang the crap out of him. The three kids on the rollerblades, the street hockey players.
Yeah, again, another reference to hockey. I mean, I can't think of a movie so far in the Kevin Smith universe that didn't have a reference to hockey.
Yeah, I don't.
Mallrats? Did Mallrats have a hockey reference?
Well, yeah, because he's playing the NHL hockey game at the beginning.
Yeah, you're right. That's a great. We skipped right over that line. That's the best part ever.
Hartford, the whale.
Yeah, Jason Lee's playing NHL 95 or something, and he's like, he won't have sex with his girlfriend because, he's up like, what is it, like 30-1 or something insane like that?
I think it's 26-2.
I'm sure you're right. Yeah, but it was just such a monumental event that he couldn't do anything else.
Oh my god. But yeah, so they beat the crap out of him, as we later learn that's God. Who loves skee-ball and comes and finds a human body to inhabit for a little bit, to play skee-ball once every month or so. And as part of the plan of Jason Lee's character, Azrael, they can't kill him because then he'll go to heaven because it's God. So they have to incapacitate him in some way that he doesn't die. So they put him, the three of them put him into a coma. Which, I think it always struck me as funny. These three little minions that he's got are clever enough to, jump God and beat him up to where he's in a coma. But they can't beat up Jay and Silent Bob.
Well, I mean, God was in I guess he was in like a homeless guy's form.
Yeah.
You would think that somebody would get him out of this jam, but I guess this is just not the time. Yeah, this movie has so many controversial things. I mean, there's the right to, he's in a coma. And there's people say you should stay on life support for as long as you can. That's an issue in this movie.
Yep.
Abortion's a big issue. The main character, Bethany, works in an abortion clinic, even though she's like a diehard, goes to church as often as you can Catholic.
Yeah, she's sort of like a bored, like losing faith in her religion kind of Catholic.
Yeah, but she can't quite take that final step to fully, divest herself of her religion.
Yeah, and she still gives to the collection and everything. Janine Garofalo's in this movie for a short period of time. She plays someone that works with Bethany at the abortion clinic, and she said, how would they react if they knew that your weekly tithing came from a Planned Parenthood check? Yeah.
Yeah, and then another. That's probably the second scene when they introduce Bethany, maybe.
After beating up the homeless guy, the next scene is her in church, kind of just like like reciting the words,
Yeah, and I think then she has a dream that night with Alan Rickman. He's good in everything I've ever seen Alan Rickman in. Mm-hmm. I would watch any movie with Alan Rickman.
He's even good in stuff I haven't seen him in. That's how good of an actor he is.
Yeah, he was in a Miss Buttersworth commercial I've never seen. He's amazing. But no, Alan Rickman, he plays the Meteron, which is the voice of God.
Yep.
Which I think makes sense as far as the choir of angels, etc.
Yep.
I'm not religious, but I've studied or learned enough about it to know that is a real thing.
Yeah, everything he says is accurate in the movie. Yep.
Yeah, they later explain that God, if you were to hear God, herself's voice, because God is played by Alanis Morissette.
Right.
Which must mean Dave Coulier had the time of his life with her. But so she can't speak herself, so she dictates everything through the Meteron. So Bethany has a vision where she's in a restaurant, which is I think down the street from where she actually sleeps.
Yep.
He's basically telling her, "Oh, you have to watch out. These two helpers. I can't remember if he calls them. They're not angels for sure. They're Jay and Silent Bob.
Prophets.
They're prophets, and then so she's like, okay, whatever. She wakes up and there's like the mariachi shaker or whatever that's called.
Yeah, they're damn it, what are they called? Oh,
I don't know.
not castanets. Those are the ones you. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is, she has it.
Carmen
So then
Miranda
she
things.
bananas.
Yeah, right.
So she goes to work the next day, and then she stays late. And when she's leaving, she's jumped by the same three demonic kids that beat up God. Mm-hmm. But they can't beat up Jay and Silent Bob.
Yep, Jay and Silent Bob were hanging out there because they were looking for loose women.
Yeah, that's right.
They figure if chicks were going to an abortion clinic, then they'll definitely put out.
They're not wrong.
The one complaint that I have about this movie, and I'm wondering how you feel about it, I don't love Linda Fiorentino.
Yeah, I don't think she's a great actress, but I actually heard that there's a lot of conflict with her and Kevin Smith during the entire movie.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Like he didn't like her, she didn't like him, which is interesting because I heard the same thing about Shannon Doherty.
Yep.
So I wonder if like there's an actress like that has like Shannon Doherty was actually pretty like famous from like 90210 or whatever before then. Mm-hmm. I wonder if like his like approach to filmmaking, at least at that time, wasn't like enough that they like really respected him. I don't know what the issue was, but from what I've heard, they like just didn't get along.
Well, I know he wanted Joey Lauren Adams to play the Bethany role in the movie, and I can see her a little bit in it, but I don't know.
See, I don't think that would be a better choice than the woman who actually was in it. I think she did a good job, but yeah, her performance wasn't like, super convincing. She didn't seem very conflicted. She was kind of like, very subdued.
She just plays it really weird. Like there's like when she's talking to Alan Rickman's character at the beginning, and she's like, he's talking and she's like, she kind of like nods her head and she's like, the 10th plague, and stuff like that. She seems almost like she's drunk or like I don't know if she's trying to play it like she's asleep. It's just her performance just seems, not in every part of the movie, but in certain aspects, it just seems like you can tell her and Kevin Smith are not on the same page because
for sure
it just
doesn't
seems
fit with
off.
the rest of the performances in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it clashes with a lot of the rest of the other performances. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think she's a bad actress. She's just not playing it as, the rest of the actors are playing.
Exactly.
There's like, they're playing it like, there's a little bit of humor, but there's definitely like a dramatic, like, storyline they're trying to convey the whole time. But it's she's just like really like, I'm over this kind of thing the whole movie.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, she's saved by Jay and Silent Bob, and then she remembers the vision she had from the Metaron, and so she's like, okay, these guys will take me where I need to go, because she suddenly believes, after a weird dream, that she suddenly believes everything that she didn't believe anymore is true.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if it weren't for that, whatever the fuck that thing's called, not maraca, but whatever, I mean, I guess it wouldn't make sense, but
maybe
that does,
maracas. Yeah, I think it is maracas.
I think it is maraca. Yeah, so after that, they go on their adventures. Jay and Silent Bob take her, and Jay and Silent Bob, of course, are trying to fuck her the whole time.
Yeah.
I think they're actually trying to get her a three-way at one point. I'm not sure. Oh, no, they extract a promise that if the world's on the verge of ending, that she'll have sex with both of them.
Correct. But Jay gets to go first. Yep.
Yeah, that's obvious. I mean... And what I just remembered about this movie is there's a pretty fucking funny part, and this makes it okay. If you recall, they're at a diner or a restaurant, and they're talking about Sherman, Illinois, which is a setting of many John Hughes films.
Yep.
So they're going on and on about, oh man, that guy's the man. He makes these great movies,
Yeah.
And then later, at one point, Salma Hayek plays a muse.
Yes, I noticed this. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then she's like, oh yeah, I made a deal with the devil for this guy who made this movie, which is basically Home Alone. But John Hughes made Home Alone.
Yeah, I always when I was watching it last night, that struck me because she says that she's a muse and she inspires people, and she was responsible for 15 of the 16 top grossing films of all time. And Bethany asks what the one that she wasn't involved with was, and she goes that that movie with the kid and his parents are gone, and she claps her hands to her
Yeah,
face and
yeah.
goes, ah, she goes, I had nothing to do with that one. Someone sold their soul to the devil to get the grosses up on that piece of shit.
Yeah, and that's John Hughes.
I know, and I said
Which is
when
so weird.
I was watching it with my wife, and I was like, that's a John Hughes movie too.
Which is weird. I mean, I'm sure Kevin Smith knew that, but it's just so funny that there's like such reverence for John Hughes and like, oh, fuck you, John Hughes, you sold your soul to the devil.
Right? Oh, but yeah.
So it's
All in all, I think Dogma's. I mean, this is like there are a few I won't recommend the Kevin Smith movies, unfortunately, but this is another one that I would recommend, and I think this is an incredibly strong movie. There's a lot of good philosophy in this movie. There's a lot of good humor in this movie. I think
Jason Lee playing the role of Azrael is, again, a performance that seals the movie. He's great in it. He's not in it very long, but he's really good. There's a conflict where he is also a muse at one point,
Yep.
but and during the War in Heaven, he refused to join sides because he considered himself to be an artist. And then Selma Hayek basically says, "Well, Elvis was an artist. He went to the army."
Yeah, and it's funny too because it's presented in a way where you can kind of see both sides of the arguments. Like why should he have gotten punished because he didn't take sides? But then it's like, hey, if you're not going to stand up for, I mean, like if we're assuming all this is real, it's like you're not going to stand up for God. When someone's trying to take over heaven. I mean, what does that say about you?
Oh yeah, for sure.
But
And then there's like go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if Chasing Amy is his like most personal and most kind of like serious work or movie, I think Dogma is probably his smartest.
Yeah, there's there's obviously a lot of religious overtones to this movie. There's like great scenes, like when when there could be a more obvious blasphemy than the restaurant movies Golden Calf.
Yes, the golden calf.
It's a whole franchise about a golden cow, and they go to the board meeting, and Bartleby, he could look into people's souls. He basically just calls out every member of the board as being like sinful and directly, being opposed to God and His will. And at the very end, like there's one woman, he's like, "Oh, well, you're a saint. You haven't done anything wrong. You're perfectly fine." But then Matt Damon, being the dumb guy and also the most dogmatic, goes, "But when I sneeze, you didn't say God bless you."
Yeah, that was the best. He's like, but you didn't say God bless you when I sneeze. And he's about to shoot her. And Bartleby's like, come on, Loki. And he just looks at her and he goes, you're getting off light for not saying God bless you.
Which is an interesting take because he's not wrong. If you look at the religious texts, there's so many, especially in the book of, I think it's Deuteronomy, there's so many tiny things that are like equally blasphemous to like first degree murder, like mixing multiple fabrics, not eating fish or eating meat on a Friday.
Yep.
They're equally bad, and that's basically like, I don't know if that's a direct reference to that or not, but it's certainly within the realm of possibility.
Well, I think, and I know that Kevin Smith obviously was raised Catholic. He's read a lot about Catholicism and other religions, I know. I don't think that it's a coincidence that Matt Damon's character Loki is the most simple-minded and also the most dogmatic.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think we would be neglectful to our review if we didn't mention the addition of kind of very infrequent contributor to the Kevin Smith universe, the great George Carlin.
Yep. Yeah.
This gives us one of the funniest visual gags when he's trying to make like a cool or hip religion. He comes up with Buddy Christ.
Yes, the Buddy Christ.
Where it's Jesus giving a big thumbs up and a wink.
Yeah, and it's funny with Carlin's obvious take on religion and stuff. He said during his lifetime, he said a lot of stuff about religion, and he plays a cardinal who's Cardinal Glick, who's obviously like his motivations are not 100% pure. He's obviously more in it for kind of self-aggrandizement and stuff like that. Doing like everything that he's doing. It's definitely an interesting take. I see why religious people were upset, I suppose. Although I'm one of those people that says if you don't like the subject of a movie or TV show or something, just don't watch it.
I mean, George Carlin alone being in the movie could be like controversial because of his, outstated atheism during his whole life.
Right.
And just like severe, and it's kind of funny. He has a whole bit on like religious people wearing hats, and of course, he's a cardinal with like a giant hat at some point.
Yeah.
And his whole like, he basically like sets up the movie by like saying, through a marketing campaign that if you pass through these gates, that you'll be absolved of all sin.
Yeah, he causes the problem.
Yeah, pretty. And then he also causes a solution at one point because when Azrael and his goons have they're basically the world's ending because they're about to pass through the archway. They have them hold up at a bar and they're basically about to kill the main characters when they realize, oh wait, Glick is arrogant enough to bless his golf club, so they're technically a holy instrument. So they use him to kill. They kill Azrael with them?
Yeah, they kill Azrael. Lets him. He basically because Salma Hayek's character Serendipity is trying to signal to Silent Bob to use the golf club that they stole from Cardinal Click, and he sees what she's doing, and he was like, "Oh, you're gonna! I'm a demon. You're gonna hit me with a putter or whatever."
Yeah,
he's like, "Go on,
a 9-iron maybe." I don't know.
He's like, "Go on, take your best shot." And he opens up his shirt and everything and says, "Do it." So Silent Bob does it, and it like totally caves in his chest and everything.
Yeah.
And then Bethany, who is the last scion, she's the last living descendant of Christ, she blesses the sink, and they put the three kids' heads in there, and kill them because she has the power to make holy water.
Yeah, that was like, and again, another just like him being so arrogant to bless his club. I think that's another commentary on like Kevin Smith's view of religion, at least. Like, oh, they're so nonchalant with like, oh, I'll bless this, give me some money, I'll bless this.
Yeah, and I think we don't know Kevin Smith personally, obviously, and I haven't talked to him about anything like this, but I think based on interviews and different things that he's done in movies and stuff like that, that probably his view of religion is probably best summed up by Chris Rock's character in the movie, who plays the forgotten 13th apostle Rufus.
Rufus, yeah, that's a good. Chris Rock is not a great actor, and you could tell that from this movie because he basically just yells all of his lines.
Yeah,
and as far as I know, he's in this and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and no other Kevin Smith movies.
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I can think of off the top of my head. I think Chris Rock is funny in certain things. And some of his stand-up is funny.
Yeah, his stand-up, he has some classic stand-up bits, but I mean, as an actor, he is not a good actor.
But you're right, yeah. He like, I hesitate to even call him an actor. I mean, he's like, a lot of times he's just reading his lines as if he's doing stand-up,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, he basically says that, having beliefs is bad. That people die for beliefs, people kill for beliefs. He basically talks about the rigidity of religious belief systems and how they're slow to change, and people cling on to them even when proven wrong and things like that. And he says, ideas are better. Having a good idea, ideas can be changed, ideas can be manipulated, molded, and stuff. And that seems to me to be sort of Kevin Smith's feeling or thoughts about religion.
I would agree with that. And also, we have to remember that Chris Rock is in a scene with the guy who played Hooper in Chasing Amy.
Yeah, that's
which
right.
You said his name already. I already forgot. He's very, very briefly in the movie. And I actually read that there was more of an expanded part, but it was kind of cut.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's like at the strip bar where they meet Serendipity, and like he's the gang leader, funnily enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like this movie. It's deeply philosophical. I'm not religious myself, but I mean the questions and way it puts in perspective to other religious beliefs, I think is really interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
And like you said, Matt Damon is really understated in his performance in this. Ben Affleck's good. Jason Lee is always good. I mean, there's good performances. The movie itself is really good. It was very controversial. I don't exactly know why, but I mean, I can see why. And you can tell George Carlin just loved playing a card.
Yes, absolutely.
He was just having the time of his life.
Yeah, George Carlin is like chewing scenery like all through each. He's not in a lot of scenes, but in every scene he's in, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's worth. It would be worth it for that alone. But the movie itself is good overall.
So here's the question, Mike. We have a choice, or we have a decision to make. We can move on to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and try to hit that like in about 10 minutes or so, or we can save that for next week and try to go through Jersey Girl, Clerks 2, Zack and Miri Make a Porno, and Cop Out in order to keep this at about four parts.
I think Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is a pretty complex movie in a lot of ways. I'd like to save that for next time.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best. This is one of those movies that I have very fond memories seeing this in the theater with you, especially with all the connections. There's part of what makes this such a complex movie is the sheer number of connections and the sheer variety of different sources that the connections and the insights.
I honestly don't know if a non-Kevin Smith fan would really enjoy Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
I don't think you can get much out of it unless, and the thing is like, I think it's one of those movies that has different levels of enjoyment where it depends. Like sure. the deeper of a fan you are, the more enjoyment you get. The fact that you and I listened to the Mallrats and like Clerks and stuff, DVD commentaries more than once. I had no idea that would help us in the enjoyment of this movie.
That's how deep the movie is. You have to listen to the commentaries to get every. I mean, you could. I bet I could watch that movie now and get something else out of it I haven't had.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's such a love letter to everybody who loves his movies.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, in a lot of ways, I think I mean, they made a Clerks too. I think it's the last real movie in the View Askew.
I agree. I think that I think this is kind of where the whole arc of the story wraps up. I mean, the Clerks 2 is not nearly as connected to the rest of the View Askew universe as the other movies are, but yeah, that movie sort of ends the Kevin Smith's initial run.
Yeah, I think basically again, we really can't get into it right now, but Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is a love letter to every Kevin Smith.
Yeah, I think we'll leave it there tonight, and next week we will pick up with Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and we will kind of go through quickly some of the other ones. We might not spend quite as much time on some of the other non-View Askew universe movies, although I do definitely have things to say about different ones of them, but we'll leave that.
Yeah, Red State especially.
Yes, yeah, and that's another one I kind of want to rewatch before we talk about it next week. I might give that a rewatch.
Sure.
But so we will end it there tonight. Shout out again to Miranda and Leah, our new Patreons. We definitely appreciate it. Shout out to Jason for the theme song. We might be getting trying out a new theme song pretty soon. So stick around for that. You can find us on Twitter at Massive Late Fee, Facebook Massive Late Fee, massivelatefee@gmail.com. If you want to send us some love, if you want to send us some hate, if you got a question that you'd like us to answer, or a topic that you'd like us to talk about, like I said, I'll link the Patreon below if you're interested. Just chucking a buck. Whatever you want to do, and I'll leave the Bandcamp. It's not up yet because we literally just recorded it. But by the time this is published, the Bandcamp will be up, and you can you don't have to pay anything for that if you want to. We certainly appreciate it, but that's free over at Bandcamp, the audio commentary of Clerks. I think you'll have a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. Anything else you need to say before we go, Mike?
Oh, you know what the greatest contribution Scandinavia has had to the world's
What is that?
nothing.
Take that, Sweden, you sons of bitches. All right, have a good week, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Later.